And so we're at Twickenham, mate. Bit of a strange vibe. I felt like it was like everyone was pumped, like excited to kind of go like we're going to be entertained and be treated to a bit of a flying, flowing game of rugger bugger. But it didn't really happen, really. I mean, it was high scoring, but I just didn't really have the same vibe as I think a lot of people were hoping for.
I think, I don't know, it's quite hard to review that game because England were very, very dominant. But then you look back and think, well, why wasn't it so... why wasn't it like unbelievably entertaining and, you know, I guess come away feeling like it was a spectacle? And I think some of that comes with the expectation. You know, England were expected to win. They were expected to win pretty well. I don't think they disappointed in the result or the scoreboard. Would we have liked to have seen a bit more free-flowing attack and stuff like that? I think, yeah. But I think that I wouldn't put that personally down to England. I think a lot of it was the nature of the game was spoiled by a few consistent errors from the Japanese team. You know, you look at the kickoffs, for example, Japanese 10 not getting his kick 10 metres 3 times in a game is pretty unacceptable for international fly half. There was a load of knock-ons. It was just a bit scrappy, and I think that probably spoilt the free-flowing nature of the game that we had anticipated. So overall, I think England will be happy. I think England fans will be happy with the result, as to be honest with you, I think they should be. But you're right, it wasn't the absolute globe-trotting spectacle we were expecting.
It certainly wasn't. And actually, Japan normally play pretty good rugby, but I've got to say, like, they scored two well-worked tries. But other than that, they didn't offer a huge amount. I mean, like you say, the fact that the 10 couldn't even do a kick-off 3 times kind of showed you the level where Japan were at, which they've got a lot of work to do. I know they've gone with youth and inexperience, but some bits are just like, you just don't really see that on the test arena once, let alone 3 times. But anyway, we also were treated to, of course, Ant, we'll come back to England, but we were treated to Scotland game that we managed to watch on telly at Twickenham. And we tuned in for that. And I've got to say, Scotland needed that result. I think on the back of where they were against South Africa and the way that they played, you know, they were almost like gallant losers in terms of that loss to South Africa. Like, they chucked the kitchen sink at them, did a load of good things, but obviously didn't get the result. And I felt like today was the result they needed. And my gosh, they were pretty impressive.
Definitely, I think, like you said, Scotland would come away from that autumn with a completely different mindset than if they had lost that game, given that they were close to South Africa. I think, to be honest with you, the other 2 games were a relative foregone conclusion in the team that Fiji first put out wasn't the most experienced. Then they played Portugal after South Africa, I think. So it was a bit of a... You know, these 2 games, i.e. South Africa and Australia, were the ones that they circled. And they did well against South Africa, but again, plucky losers, and you don't want to be labelled as plucky losers. So this game was a real, not turning point, because that's, you know, I think that's too definitive, but it was important for them to get the win. And in the end, I think they looked relatively comfortable in that.
Absolutely, mate. They put some really nice passages of play on. I really like the way that Scotland played, and I'm gonna touch on Australia and Scotland a little bit later, and also touch on sort of England, Scotland, sort of little comparison really for everyone to kind of get an understanding of where I think England are at compared to Scotland, who are outstanding attacking team. So, what have I learned from today as well, Tone? I tell you one thing I've learned: whoever organises the fixtures for the autumn, like, England have got to play someone like Japan or other nations similar to that level in round 1. We can't be playing them like back end of the autumn. Like, we almost need that game as the first game to like get some game time under our belt, get some cohesion. Because yeah, we went New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, then Japan. It should have been flipped the other way around. Japan should have been first, in my opinion, or a team of like a Japan caliber. I think moving forward, there needs to be an understanding to give England a better chance in terms of setting them up for the remainder of the autumn.
Yeah, and I think that having the Japan game first would have been significantly easier and more useful to the England team, but there's got to be something in it that's way above our pay grade as to why they schedule it like that, because it doesn't seem to make sense, like you said.
Well, we've been there as players, mate. We understand the difference between going in against one of the teams that have just been playing the Rugby Championship and cohesion, all that, to actually playing a team that sit outside the top 8 or top 10 or whatever. And we've played autumn games where you've played a Tonga, a Fiji, teams like that, or Georgia, and you almost iron out some of the early stuff that you need to then work forward after that. Now, the other thing I want to touch on is Marcus Smith was asked on TV, are you going to stick with the Blitz defense? In which he replied 100%. Now, I expect nothing other than him to say that, because of course he's going to say that. No player's going to stand and go, absolutely not. However, having seen it again today, having seen it all through the autumn, having given the fact that Felix Jones has left and it's obviously not being coached the same level that he had it, and it certainly doesn't look anywhere near as efficient as he had it, and watching how easy at times Japan still cut us open. I thought their first try, they could have hit the lead runner and they didn't. They went out the back, but either guy was through. And the Blitz, they need to really work out what they want to do with it moving forward, because you can still have an aggressive defence but still be way more connected and organised. And you look at Scotland for comparison, Tandy up there, what he does, it's like numbers in the line, it's guys on feet, it's 2 men in the tackle, it's trying to slow it down that way. Yeah, you get off the line fairly hard, but it's organised, it's difficult to break down, like they're efficient at what they do. We are so vulnerable all the time. The Blitz, for me, it needs changing, it needs rethinking. We need to come up with a different type of defence. We can still be aggressive, we can still get off the line, but right now, mate, it is a huge issue within the England system.
I completely understand the sentiment. I personally, I'm not sure it needs to be taken away completely. I think that there's elements of it that potentially need to be ironed out, and things that need to be probably, I guess, worked on is the right word. But in terms of what you're seeing, I completely agree. In terms of the outcomes, it seems at the moment when we concede a line break with the Blitz, it's a try. And, Japan didn't have to work incredibly hard for some of their tries today. And in international rugby, that just can't be the case, because, like we've seen, if you've then got to chase the game, it makes things so much more challenging when you've let the opposition kind of score without doing too much work to let them score. So I think it all comes back down to pressure. I think that England have got to find a way to consistently apply that pressure through the Blitz defence in a way that doesn't leave them too susceptible to conceding tries that are that easy. Because to be honest with you, a lot of them weren't just straight up missed tackles. They were, like I said, they just looked too easy for them to finish them off. And look, at the same time, we can't take too much away from the Japanese attack. In those instances, they executed what was the right thing to do on both occasions. So, yeah, that was good. But again, still, we're expecting a much better defence from England at this point, I think. And I know that the coaches and the players won't be happy with those 2 tries conceded, given the nature in which they were done.
Tone, I've got to say though, mate, like if England stay with this D, now Sean Edwards was the original Blitz defence coach, and you look at France and you look at Wales, how they used to defend under Sean Edwards. They got off the line, yes, they blitz, but not like kamikaze, like high risk, it's madness at times. I'm watching England. If England do that going 6 Nations, mate, Ireland first game, France second game, Scotland third game, they have to then suddenly score 30 odd points to win a game, which the attack isn't capable of doing that right now. So they have to have a rethink. They can still be aggressive and try and get the ball back as quickly as possible. They can still be organised and pressure teams. But for me right now, the manner of which they do it and how hard they go, they are just getting picked off too easily. They can still be an aggressive defence, but they need to bring it back by 20-30% of how hard they're going off the line, because it's the tightness of it, the amount of times guys are coming in and not shutting down the pass. And you mentioned it against Australia. If you come in, you've got to shut down the ball, and we're not shutting down the ball. The Blitz, we can still blitz like France do, like South Africa do, like Ireland do, like Scotland do. Like Blitz is quite broad. No team, the ball's never passed off a ruck, and no team just stays in a straight line. Everyone moves forward off the line. But at the moment, England are sprinting off the line. And therefore, any wrong judgment, any minuscule moment they get wrong, that's it. Line break, try, in behind you, speed of ball. And I just think it needs readdressing. We tried to do it under Felix Jones. Felix Jones is one of the best coaches in world rugby. One of the best coaches in world rugby. He has left. He's a phenomenal coach. He does attack, he does defence. And you can see the impact he's had on leaving England. You can see it in the autumn, and you can see Alan Walters leaving, the impact that's left, and Tom Tomberson. But with him going, there isn't someone that's capable of coaching it to that level.
Yeah, I like I said, I do understand where you're coming from. I just think that, and a lot of my reasoning is actually based on where this extremely aggressive defence started from. And South Africa were the first teams to implement it. And it took them a decent while to get it, right? It took them, I reckon, 6-7 games before they started to look cohesive. Obviously, England have had a significantly longer time, but Felix Jones obviously had the Six Nations last year, 5 games, the 2 over the summer, 7 games. Then a coach has changed. So I know that defence has been implemented from previous, but it's almost like you have to not concede that the new coach has come in, because the system is pretty similar, but obviously different coaching methods, different explanations of things, different understandings. You have to give it a bit more time to bed in, I think. And, if we're having the same conversations at the end of the Six Nations, then yes, 100%, we might need to rethink it. But I don't think, especially with what looks like the long-term planning of the squad makeup and where they're going, I don't think we need to change everything drastically right now.
I reckon, though, under Felix, I saw the Blitz get better and better and better. And come the summer, I thought they really nullified New Zealand in the summer. And they nullified certain teams in the Six Nations with how they did it. And I saw huge growth. I've now seen the team go backwards in terms of their Blitz. And that's because you haven't got someone like Felix's calibre. Okay, you're not going to be able to replace him. But there's no shame in going, okay, I still want to be aggressive, but let's do it Joe Lab's way. Let's do it something that he's more comfortable coaching at. I just think, as you say, Anne, if come the end of the Six Nations, if we're still having the same conversations, mate, then undoubtedly it needs readdressing. But for me, to see England, if we still carry on doing that in early rounds of Six Nations, then I think we're in real trouble. I do. I think we're in real trouble because teams will exploit it. Teams will exploit that. Now, on a positive note, though, Olly Slone, I've got to say, mate, lovely little grubber to himself. I like that. I mean, we should break it down, actually. Ollie Lawrence gets it, refuses to get tackled, sort of spinning around, pirouettes, little footwork, gives a little bounce. Lovely offload. England don't throw many, but that was a lovely offload. Straight to Willie Stewart, who opens up the big lad. Safe to say, Coley probably not getting this distribution pass out of his hands like Willie Stewart did. Unbelievable seed over the top. Chandler, Cunningham South, having the awareness of there's the speedster outside, boom, you have it. And then Slone recognises actually the cover's coming across, lovely little drop onto his foot and finish. What was your take on that, mate?
I mean, I can't sum it up any better than you've just done, to be honest with you. I think Chandler, Cunningham South is probably the key point within that whole passage of play. Obviously great from Ollie to keep the ball alive. Like you said, Stewie, I'm not sure you see many tight head props recognise where the space was and then have the ability to throw it over the top. But Chandler giving the ball early, I think Ben Kay said it on comms, but giving the ball early when you're a winger and you've got a finishing opportunity is exactly what you want. If Chandler takes 2-3 more steps out of that, it gives the Japanese team way more time to come across, and then Olly Slone might be catching the ball and have one option, which is the carry. But given the situation that arose and him giving the ball early, Olly Slone gets the ball and can pause for a second, analyse the space, and then puts a deft little kick in, I think, at the speed he was coming onto it, to kind of stop, give himself a bit of time, and then gauge how much he had to kick the ball to be able to beat the opposition in the space and it not go dead, is that's deadly finishing levels. That was serious test match stuff. So hats off to Olly Slone for that. I thought that was an outstanding piece of skill.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved it. Tone, tell me, what's the difference? Is he screaming from Chandler? Is it honestly that much of a difference? If Chandler takes 2 more steps and give it to him, is that honestly so? You've been there hundreds of times. like played in the Test Arena, all those games. The difference between a player giving it to you early and not, is it generally a difference between scoring or not?
Ah, completely. It just takes away all of your options. The more he takes the ball to the line, it just means that when you catch the ball, you have to make a decision almost immediately. I'm going to kick this or I'm going to carry it. And that obviously then reduces your ability to make stuff happen because you've only got one choice. So him giving the ball early is key. Like, you can't even, as a winger, if he didn't give Slightholme that ball early and I was in that position, I'm going up to him after fuming because, you know, that's a try scoring opportunity that's been wasted. And every winger out there would agree, you know, you want the ball with time and space, and you don't get it too often. So when the opportunity does arise and it's in a forward's hand, please give it to me. I'm desperate. You have to give that ball early. Obviously, you know, there are different times in the game where potentially the option is for him to carry. But when the space is already there, the defence is scrambling across like they were, give it to him early.
I think I personally think Slightholme's had a really good autumn. He's obviously got his opportunity through Manny Feobosu being out injured, because I think Manny was outstanding for the game and a half that he did play. But I feel like Slightholme's taken his real opportunity, actually. And as you look at it, you've got Tommy Freeman, you've got Manny, and Slightholme's probably that guy that's next in. He's certainly put himself in the mix, I think.
Yeah, and I think for him to come away from the autumn series with 4 tries, I think it is pretty special. You know, he obviously didn't play the full 80 in the second game with Manny's injury. So, you know, 4 tries out of that is pretty special. And he's a deadly finisher. There's no two ways about it. You give him an inch and he's going to score. So I think that he's definitely, at the bare minimum, the third choice in that back three department, or winger department even. And I think he's pushing. He's definitely pushing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get more of an opportunity. But it's actually just nice for Steve and the selectors going forward to have someone who's exposed to playing the Test rugby and showing he can finish on that level with the other two who are playing so well as well. So again, strength in depth and department, that's what you want as an international coach and as a high quality international team, and England are definitely getting there.
There is potential that Slightholme forces his way in as a starting winger, and if they move Freeman to 13, which they obviously put Tommy there back end of the game today.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that personally. I'm not disputing that Tommy can play centre. I think he's great at centre whenever he plays for Northampton. I just think for the overall, what's the right word? The overall synergy of the backline, I think Olly Lawrence has to start. So then who's coming out for Fremo? Because Slady, you know, whilst he's had a quiet autumn by his own high standards, I think he still has that ball playing ability that without him, England might suffer a little bit. So I just can't see it quite just yet. And that might change. You know, I thought Ollie actually ball played well when he was off the pitch, but that was mostly off set piece moves. It wasn't so much in open play or in phase play. So look, I think it's a great option to have 100% as the game goes on. It's brilliant to have, but starting with them, depending on who you're playing against, if you want to see the ball zinged about and moved around, which I think England do, then I think that Slady is still there, and Ollie, you can't drop him, especially not after today. You know, he's been in attack, he's been a bit quiet over the autumn. I think today you saw what he can do. He's just so strong, keeps the ball alive, keeps moving, always forward. And, you know, defensively, I think he's stepped up a notch this autumn as well. So, yeah. In a roundabout way, what I'm saying is that I think that those two centres are vital in terms of, you know, keeping the cog moving in the right direction.
I tell you what I do like is Tommy Freeman's offload today, though. Like awareness, that where it comes, like he knows where George Furbank is, obviously teammates to him. So I like that feel. I think he offers a little bit of point of difference, and lovely little offload. That probably was one of the highlights of the day, that along with Will Stewart's big right-hand pass. And I tell you what else was a highlight, Ant, which I really enjoyed, was the Finn Smith and Marcus Smith combination. And, you know, England actually looked better with Finn Smith at 10. Now, hear me out. In terms of their actual structured movement, in terms of the actual team organisation and the way the ball moved and the flow of the attack. Now, Marcus has been England's standout player, so I'm not suggesting that he replaced him in any way, shape or form. But it was just interesting seeing Finn Smith come at 10, Marcus go to fullback, and his ability, Finn, to kind of move the ball a little bit more. And actually, England looked like they had a bit more structure in terms of their attacking sort of patterns and phases. And I actually really like the look of that. And Marcus, again, like, he is a maverick player. We need him getting the ball as many times as possible to make things happen. And I just wonder, like, where the fullback, he could end up being that fullback slot. Because Finn Smith today, it's Japan. Like, back end of the game, Japan didn't offer too much. But England just looks structurally a little bit better in attack and a bit more rhythm and flow to it. But it also allows Marcus to still do his absolute wizardry stuff. It's an interesting debate.
Yeah, I just can't get with it. I think that at the moment, Marcus is the man, like you said, and I don't think putting him at fullback is the right call right now. I think that Finn Smith, like you said, he looked brilliant when he came on. He looked like he fed people, put them in space. And I know that Marcus can do that. Like, we see him do it for Quins. But he's been so unbelievably threatening, ball in hand, throughout the whole autumn series that, you know, if your go-to guy is getting you go forward and the opposition aren't defending it, well, you just keep doing it. And Marcus is able to keep doing that and keep breaking the line, keep setting up tries with magic. And so I just don't see how putting him somewhere else is beneficial for the team when he's doing a great job at 10. Yeah, he can potentially bring in the other players more. But that will probably happen over the Six Nations, in my opinion, when teams start defending him and closing up the spaces and closing up his show and go. Then it has to be the option for him to pass it. So I don't know. I think when your man's your man, you stick with him and you kind of try and build around him and revolve around him. And I think that Marcus is in that position now where that should be happening. And I'm sure England are trying to do that. And I'm positive that the more he plays in that position, the more he's given just a run of games at 10, running the show, everyone will get on the same page as him. And I don't think putting him to fullback, or starting at fullback at least, is a viable option. And that's no slight on Finn Smith or Marcus's ability at fullback. I think it's what's best for the team, personally. And yeah, I mean, look, from 50, 60 minutes, giving him a run at fullback, no issues. But he's the starting 10 for me, and I don't want to see them deviate from that.
I do look at Finn Smith, and I think he's got brilliant test match attributes. I really do. I think he's got a really good test match ability attributes to play and be a very, very good test match 10. I do. I think he's sort of a bit of both, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. I want to touch on the difference between England and Scotland when it comes to attacking intent and how much more England need to go, really, to get near there. Scotland are one of the best attacking teams in world rugby right now, in my opinion. Like, everyone's had 4 games now. Everyone's had 5 weeks in camp. That's a lot of training sessions. That's a lot of time to work on everything. And I just want to highlight the attacking intent of Scotland and the way that they move the ball and compare that to England. And today's a great example of that. Playing against Japan, and given the fact that, we should outpower them, should be able to hold on to the ball and do that and go multi-phase. So bear in mind, England, Japan and Scotland played Australia. Right. Between Marcus Smith, George Furbank and Henry Slade, who are deemed the most creative playmaking ball players that England actually have, they threw a combined total of 27 passes. And compare that with Finn Russell playing against Australia. England played Japan. Playing against Australia, Finn Russell threw 33 passes on his own. Finn has thrown more passes, distributed more balls than George, Marcus and Slady. And England played Japan. Right? I'm not finished. Bear with me. Scotland threw a total of 171 passes. England threw 123. Now let's look at the nines, for instance. Benny White passed 65 times. Didn't play the full game, by the way. He passed it 65 times for Scotland. JVP and Rands combined passed it 46 times. Combined. Right? Scotland kicked it today 17 times against Australia. England were playing Japan, and then we kicked it 28 times. Scotland's attacking intent and ambition right now is light years ahead of England's, in my opinion. And here's one more to finish, actually. Japan's carries meters were 100 more than England's today. Japan took 50 against England, yet their carry meters were 100 more than England's. Steve talked about being brave and growing the attack, and I quote, this is what he said pre-game, leading into the week. "You've seen the way the team is trying to play now. We see the ball movement in the last 12 months, and that has changed with this team, and the way that they can score wonderful tries." He must have been talking about Scotland, mate, because I didn't see that, and the stats don't lie. I've said about the Blitz that needs changing, but England's growth in attack is monumental. We played Japan today, and there was still a huge lack of ball movement, intent, distribution, amount of passes made. Japan have taken 50, yet they've had 100 more metres in carries. Scotland have thrown 171 passes against Australia, a good team, like a team that we recognise. Well, I certainly recognise now they're good. England threw 123. Finn Russell's chucked 33. More than three of our best distributors and playmakers. So I have a bit of a gripe. Like, he's saying in the last 12 months, I don't agree with that, because if we've got to wait another 12 months, we're still going to be so far away from these best attacking teams.
I think what it comes down to then is actually, in my opinion, is probably a bigger picture type thing. And I'm not talking about bigger picture as in, look to the future. What I mean by that is, at the end of the day, England had to win today, right? They couldn't have facilitated any scenario where it was close. And so England had the upper hand in the scrum, they had the upper hand in the line-out, and they had the upper hand in general in the power game that we're so used to seeing England play. So I think that first and foremost, they had to get that dominance. And not that it took longer than it should have, because England went racing off to, I think, a 3-try lead pretty early on. But I think that when you've got someone, for want of a better word, pinned down, i.e. you've found an area of dominance, you keep going and keep going and keep going in that area, and eventually it'll free up the space. Does England need to grow their attack even more? Yeah, 100% they do. But I don't think highlighting the stats of, like, not a must-win game, but in essence, they had to win. So the word is actually probably pretty appropriate. Against Japan and Scotland, who have always played that way and are used to playing that way and have got, the best distributing 10 probably in the world at the moment. I don't think you can cast iron compare the two with all the context that I've just given. Are the stats in isolation England's a bit concerning? Yeah, probably. And like I said, they have to grow their attack. But like I said, they had to win the game first and foremost. And, we saw it in the last 20 to 30 minutes. Like you said, Len, yourself, when Finn came on, the ball started getting spread around a bit more and England looked more comfortable. Well, that was on the back of them dominating up front. So they probably missed 40 or 50 minutes of applying pressure through a more fluid attack because they had found an area of weakness within Japan. So, in summary, what I'm trying to say is that the stats can't necessarily be compared.
But the thing is, Tone, is you're playing against Japan, and I would dare say that I reckon you put... Well, comment below, let me know what you think. I reckon you put most Premiership teams out and they beat Japan. I do. That Japanese team. And, of course you're going to maul them over. The Japanese pack is tiny. Yeah, you hammer home that, but I still wanted to see more, ball movement, all that. You look at the Scottish tries, you look at their, their patterns and their structured play and the way they play and the movement. And what I'm saying is, I'm just highlighting how far off we are. Scotland are, I think, one of the best attacking teams in the world. But I'm just highlighting it. Steve's coming out saying you've seen this improvement in the last 12 months. But you read those numbers, mate. We're still so far off in terms of distribution, movement. You look at in terms of the autumn in a whole, right? With the lowest average passing count we've got the lowest average pass to kick ratio. This is in the whole of the autumn series, with 4 passes for every kick we do. With the lowest total passing distance per game. On all the attacking stats, we are right at the bottom. There is some good bits, but my gosh, we've got between now and the Six Nations, when everyone goes back to their clubs, like there needs to be a genuine identity in terms of what we're trying to do in attack, and it needs to be vastly improved. Because if we're conceding that many points from our Blitz defense, then we've also got to then score a load of tries to counteract that. And right now, it's like we can't stop teams scoring against us, and equally we can't outscore other teams with our attack. I'm trying to highlight that, like, we've got a way to go.
I don't disagree, Len, that there's improvement to be made across the attack and the defence. But I think that it's not minute changes, that's unfair, but it's not as drastic as you think. And as you know, Len, I think defence is probably easier to shore up than attack. And attack definitely takes longer. But England have had the luxury of having the same philosophy generally from the same person, i.e. Wiggy, across, probably 2 years. Post World Cup is when, I think things started to try and change, and we tried to shift. So I think that is starting to probably bed itself a little bit, and you're going to hate the words that are about to come out of my mouth, but just give the attack time, because that does, as you know, take longer than defence. And I think that we'll start seeing more and more shoots of greatness coming from the England backs with time. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the attack's been overwhelming in the Autumn Nations. I don't think it has. But I think that what was required today was a comprehensive win over Japan, and England did that.
So those insights come from Sage, our partners, who have been unbelievable with supplying us with information, stats and everything. They've been terrific all autumn. But again, thanks to them, because it helps me highlight some of the bits that I wanted to talk about if I have a little overview of England, it's the blitz that concerns me, and it's the growth in the attack that concerns me. Because if you concede that many points, you've got to find tries. And we can't find that many tries, and we can't stop teams from scoring. So between now and the Six Nations, there has to be a shift in both those things, in my opinion. Now, we've sort of delayed this, but on to Scotland, mate. My God, for the love of Tuipulotu's gran, because thank God she was in the stands, loving life, mate. But the first try from Scotland, I love this. I love how Gregor thinks and the way he goes about it. But absolute seed over the top of the entire line out to Tuipulotu, off the back fence. Cheers, boy, try and stop me, mate. And he absolutely powers over. But just smart play. And I tell you what, the other try I absolutely love was Finn Russell's. And this, again, is a good comparison with England in terms of their ability to use a strike off a line out multi-phase, it's a pre-planned strike move to try to score off this. They ran exactly the same move against South Africa. It was when Eben Etzebeth made that incredible tackle on Dewey van der Merwe. So the ball comes off the top, they hit the midfield, Tuipulotu just plays it, sort of dump to Ferguson. Quick ruck, mate. The speed of that ruck is unbelievable. They come back to the side where the line-out's just come from, hitting that arrowhead, that podder forward, and Dewey van der Merwe just sits in behind that middle guy. And the middle guy gets it. He looks like he's going to hit the forward inside him. He just splits outwards, and then van der Merwe comes straight through the middle, mate. And then once he's broken the line, that's where he's in his own. He's lethal, to be honest. He bangs off his left foot, looks for support, gets the ball away. I think he hits Hugh Jones, who hits Kinghorn, who I've got to say, Blair, he was unbelievable today. Offload back inside to Finn Russell. A brilliant team try. Let's talk about another try, is the Bayliss try. So again, Scotland come off the lineup, they get through, they sort of get hit in midfield, and then Darcy Graham somehow ends up with the ball, and this guy has honestly got magic in his feet. He dances away, mate. Off he goes, off he sets, links up, then Bayliss gets it. The Australian covers come across, and I think they underestimate how quick Bayliss is. Obviously plays his rugby at Bath, but the guy is quick in those wide channels, and off he sets. And mate, what a try. Great finish. As I say, the attacking intent of Scotland is, in my opinion, one of the best in the world right now, and that's where England need to get to that sort of level.
Yeah, I think the key point I would look at in both of those tries is actually keeping the ball alive. So obviously Duhan makes the break in Bayliss's try, and he's straight away he's looking for support, looking for how he can not die with the ball, and he finds someone on the edge. I can't remember who, and then gives it to Bayliss. Bayliss still has so much work to do, but having played with him at Bath, one thing I know is don't give him the outside because he'll take it. So you've got to, like we said, around all these people who are fast with feet, you've got to kind of shepherd him or put him where you want to put him. And he just took it and he was off. And, obviously, I think, again, Australia will look back at that and think that they should have done better, like they should have done better with Tuipulotu's try. I think both of those they'll look back on with frustration. But again, let's not take anything away from Bayliss or Scotland. Took some finishing, did what needed to be done, scored it. But in Finn Russell's try, again, you see how many offloads there are. No one's looking to die with the ball. They're shifting the point of attack, making it hard for teams to get set in defence, get the right numbers. And ultimately, you do that enough, eventually someone's going to concede a line break. You're going to get on the front foot and someone's going to have a run in. And, it would have been easy for Blair Kinghorn to die with the ball there, recycle, okay, let's get into our 22 pattern. But they didn't, and they score immediately as a result. So that is definitely an area where Scotland are strong. They don't want to die with the ball. The ball is constantly moving.
If Joseph Suaalii, right, he can catch kickoffs, he can offload, he can break tackles, and I tell you what else he can do. He can absolute bang, mate. Tuipulotu got absolutely banged by him. I know that Joseph had to go off, right, but oh my gosh, how's that? There you go, rugby league convert. He's bringing the absolutely NRL shoulder onto the rugby union stage. So that was a hell of a hit. And the other hit that I want to speak to you about is when Ben White goes through and he chips it over Tom Wright. And now they obviously went to TMO about this and nothing was decided, but he's the last man. He chips it over his head. Anyway, Ben White gets taken out by Tom Wright. But in my opinion, Ant, Tom Wright, what can he do? So a lot of people, I was watching obviously at Twickenham, and a lot of people say, "Oh, is that it's a yellow card? That's a penalty try." And I was saying, no, it's not. Benny White tips it over the top, but Tom, where's he meant? He can't vanish. He hasn't got Harry Potter's invisible cloak. What's he meant to do? He's running flat out at him. He's stationary. He chips it over to him. He's entitled to hold his ground, isn't he?
So I think you have to almost stand up dead straight where you would be, hold your ground, and let him run into you. That's option one. Option two, I think, is actually, within option one, you've kind of got to try and sell it a bit as well. You've got to stand your ground, and then as soon as contact's made, I don't want to say play act because I really don't like it that's coming into rugby with some of the head knocks and stuff like that. But you've got to sell it a bit, and you've got to pull your best Denzel Washington impression out of Gladiator 2 and act your way out of it. And then option two is you've got to, in my opinion, is to try and stay in the play and try and disrupt it. If you can turn the right way that interferes with his line of running, you're kind of staying in the game, but slowing him down enough so that hopefully the cover will get him. So in that situation, Andrew Kellaway was coming as well. If you can slow Ben White down enough to get him out of his stride, make him go a different way, make an extra step left or right or whatever it is, it just gives you enough time to get back and I guess retrieve the ball. So those are the two options. I think that the safest option in that situation was just to hold your ground. I think the extra lean that Tom Wright gave, like I said, probably gave it away, and that made it a simple call for the refs. But yeah, you've got to really sell it, mate.
Great insight from you, Tone. Great insight. I tell you what else I want to know is, do you think Gregor Townsend gets the Lions coaching job as the attack coach? Because the way they move it, the way they play, and I would say right now, if you're picking the Lions team, and listeners, I'd love you to comment, let us know what you're thinking, because on the back of this autumn series, I think it's predominantly Irish and Scottish. And I look at the back line that played for them. I'm not too concerned about the pack. We'll leave that for Coley when he comes back and joins up. But in terms of the back line, it's hard to argue against all those Scottish players that played today, being picked in that tour. Dewey, Darcy Graham,
okay.
You got Blair, you got Hugh Jones, Tuipulotu, Finn Russell, Ben White.
Yeah, I'm not sure is the answer. I think that if you look at the attacks across this autumn nations, it's hard to deny that Scotland have probably had the free-flowing and most elusive attack, in my opinion. So does that put him as the front runner? Probably, but you know what Lions coaching jobs are like. There's so many different things to negotiate and to agree upon, that having the best candidate possible doesn't always work. And from a logistic point of view, from a contract point of view, from a synergy point of view with the other coaches. So I'm not sure whether he'd go again. I think, maybe the experience in South Africa maybe changes that. Maybe he wants to right some wrongs, I guess, and get a win with the Lions. I'm sure that might be on his list. In terms of the Scottish,
how was he as a coach for you though, Dan? In 21, like, how
he was good. He was actually.
Did you pick up on his attacking intent straight away?
Definitely, he was definitely very attack minded. We knew that South Africa were going to blitz in that on that Lions tour in 21, and it was not about conceding to that and we'll get them once, then we'll get them on the next play, which is so often done against blitzes and can get you in a lot of trouble. It was more around, okay, no, we're going to get them first phase. We're going to come with moves that are going to make it difficult for them. So he's definitely 100% got an attacking mindset. And obviously it helps when he's got Finn Russell as his starting 10, who is either running the attack his way or is aiding in Gregor's plan for the attack. So the two work hand in hand. But on to your other question, in terms of who's definitely going on the tour, in our opinion, I think Duhan is for me he's as certain as they come on that tour personally. I think Blair Kinghorn has got to go from a fullback perspective. Tua Pilotu, agree. I think Hugh Jones is right up there, and obviously we know about Finn. Those for me are definitely go. I mean, the thing is with the wingers is that how many do they usually take? It's normally 5. Is it 5 max or 4? I think on the last one it was myself, Duhan, Josh Adams. Who else was there? Myself, Duhan, Josh Adams, Louis, Rizamit. So I think there was actually only 4. But obviously, Liam Williams can play wing. Stuart Hogg could have played wing. We had a fair few. So I mean, that's a tough position, mate. We've got the back three is going to be tricky. Manny, Fremo, Mac Hansen, James Lowe. Like, it's not an easy one. So I think, and we're also forgetting Kyle Steyn is a very, very good player for Scotland when he gets a crack. So back three is too difficult to call right now. I think that Dewey for me is 100%. But I think we got for me, I don't want to say no, it's not fair on Darcy Graham. I think he's a great player, but I'm not sure him going leave someone out, and I don't know who that, in my opinion, would be left out.